So very often, a video editor has to perform repetitive tasks, not necessarily very complicated, but relatively time consuming. What if you had the ability to automate these tasks by launching one or more actions simultaneously? Are you curious to find out how that works? Come on, let me show you how it's done. Here is Stack Pro, a tool that will allow you to perform effects in series, to also be able to rename in series, for example, either bins or your raw video rushes. Incorporate various motion graphics and then carefully add smooth transitions between your shots. These tasks can be efficiently carried out individually or as a group. For example, if you ever found that you needed to integrate a new effect into the work, well, nothing prevents you from being able to fully and seamlessly integrate transitions, and then also be able to, you can rename a specific quantity of different elements that you will choose to select in your bins. Each task can be defined individually. For example, here, apply a simple 3D. The resulting effect, I'm going to select this option. There are two possible scenarios to consider here. Either you have already applied this specific setting effect, and at that point, you can simply replace it with a new one. Or you want to apply this effect for the umpteenth time. And at that point, the add function, this will allow you to do exactly that. Another feature is that you will be able to raise several parameters. So today I don't integrate all the specific parameters since some of these parameters are plainly visible, but quite unfortunately, the API doesn't allow you to control them globally, and especially to be able to process 100% of these parameters. However, if you see here that there are a number of settings present on this effect, then what doesn't appear in this list will be present later in the effect options. So either you drag the blank effect with the defaults, and on each of the planes, you're going to change the settings. You could also copy paste the attributes later, or the default settings that are offered are enough for you. And at that point, you will be able to integrate them without any problem by clicking in the corresponding fields. For transitions, there is no notion of parameter. You will have input transitions and output transitions that are also associated with a search engine. If I search for crossfade, you see that here we can't find it in the list since this list has been dynamically translated. So in English, the term dissolve will make it possible for you to easily find and identify them. Whereas when you are in the French part, all you really need to do is type in the word fade. Then let's choose this crossfade. Same thing, I'll be able to find it a bit later on in the favorites. As for the batch rename, then when it comes to the process of renaming files in a large batch, there are two effective options available to you. Either you choose to include a specific prefix and or perhaps even a suffix. You can suffix the sequence with an initial starting value and a defined total number of elements. Here you will have a coding that will be done on 2 digits. You could ask to code on 3 digits, and you have the example that appears just below. So the very first possibility is that you actually arrive at a selection of rushes to say that you, for instance, if you look right here, as these are cinematic aerial drone footage shots, you might want to add drone and a hyphen. And at the end, let us consider this, for instance, the place possibly also preceded by a hyphen. And then you'll have the example that will be displayed underneath. So that's the first scenario. Addition of a number, therefore a timer that will be triggered by adding a prefix and a specific suffix. For example, if I simply happen to want to test out this particular action and not the previous actions, I can simply disable, take all of these actions and just run this single one right here. And you can see that here I had the original names replaced. I just have to cancel this last operation and switch instead to the second scenario, i.e. here the fact of keeping the original name. However, I keep the same settings in terms of the prefix and suffix. And then I will begin the process right now, this very specific task. What is particularly interesting about this is that the prefix has already been successfully added. The name has been kept, and just before the extension of this video file, there is the suffix that once it has been inserted, then I can temporarily disable this specific processing step and then come back to activate the other 2 remaining options. Finally, I select the plans that are concerned here. Again, 2 possible scenarios. Either I launch all the tasks at once, or I can handle that part of it for you too, step by step, and I will be told that the very first step is now complete and that there are still n steps left, which is to say, right here, 2 steps to reach the end of the overall processing. So if I throw step by step, the first step was to add this simple 3-dimensional model. I still have one final remaining task to complete on this specific set of items. There are two options, specifically the crossfade here. And now I am getting started with this very last task. I have the transition properly, and if I select a clip, go into the effects options, I would also have this simple 3D that has been, once these have successfully been applied, you can then save every single one of these tasks as well. This backup will also incorporate the settings you have dragged into it. So I'm going to be able to find the type in the name of this preset located right at the bottom. I then click on the save button, and I will later have the option to go back to this. Go ahead and open the preset, then load it up and carefully search through the actions I have recorded. Last thing, if another person also has this plugin, you will then be able to send them all of these actions by clicking on the export button. It will be enough for this person to then come and pick up this JSON, which you will have exported. They can then import it, run it, and if needed, save this preset locally as well. And finally, last but not least, as you may have already noticed by now, you certainly will benefit from an interface in both the English and the French languages. Nice, right?